Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship. My name is Gareth, otherwise known as Captain Stiff. You can find me on Tuesday and Wednesday nights equally in Invictus Racing League. And yes, we are here in Barcelona for the second round of the No Assist Championship in Spain at the circuit of Catalonia. Obviously, the testing circuits, the guys will be used to it by now. It's a notoriously very tricky circuit to get a setup right. The cars just understeering for a lot of the corners and having to get that right balance absolutely spot on. So it will be very interesting, especially in qualifying, to see what the guys do this evening. Track length it's about 4.655 kilometers. That's just over 2.8 miles, 14th longest circuit of the season. The distance down to turn 1 is 730 metres, that's just under half of a mile. Longest straight is the main straight, that's 0.65 of a mile, just over 1 kilometre. Cars will be doing a top speed down that main straight at around 208 miles an hour. That's 335 kilometers an hour. Full throttle is around 65% of the lap, so quite high up in the throttle usage around the lap here. Obviously, the highest of the season is 75% around Monza, so 65% definitely gives the guys a chance to possibly relax down some of the longer straights, the DRS obviously on the exit turn 13 down to turn 1, and then on the exit of turn 9 down to turn 10. ERS around here, it's a medium ERS circuit. Obviously there's a lot of heavy braking zones, so the guys will have a lot of opportunity to recover some of that energy throughout the lap. And we'll do 44 gear changes per lap. That's just over 2,900 gear changes over the lap. And as I said, my name is Gareth, otherwise known as Captain Stiff. I'll be on commentary for the entire race, but as always, I am joined in the commentary box by none other than Sab. Good evening.
Good evening. I am looking forward to tonight. It should be another thrilling race, especially after last week, the excitement we got last week. This bringing a completely different challenge this week. It's like you say, it's a very demanding circuit, and I'll be very interested to see from the start, because it's a really long straight line down to that first corner. It'd be really interesting to see what battles and overtakes we can get down to that start, because the track can be quite wide, and if you can get round the outside, there's enough room for two cars to follow each other around first, second and third, and you could see some interesting overtakes and battles in the first early laps of the race.
Absolutely, and although it is a very tricky circuit to overtake on, like you say, it's one that you can follow the cars in front of you particularly closely, and you'll find some of the bravest drivers possibly making moves into corners that you don't often see overtakes made into, possibly in the exit of turn 4, or maybe even a lunge into turn 5, and then equally you've got the DRS down into turn 1 and down into turn 10. The rest of the lap, it's very tricky to make sure you get it right, because otherwise I think it might be a case of a little bit of a Hail Mary and throwing it down the inside. Have you got any particular places on track where you feel that are most beneficial to get the moves done, or is it a case of just biding your time and waiting for the DRS?
I personally, for me, when I've raced on here, turn 1's usually the best for me. Try and wait, bide my time, get the DRS. But for me, DRS works if you can get turn 15 and 16 right, the chicane, because if you get that right, you can really get up close behind the car in front of you. If you don't nail that right and you lose speed through there, even though you have DRS, you'll only gain up to the car in front and you'll not overtake. So it's really crucial through 15 and 16 to make sure you nail that bit, so when you're flying down that straight, you've got enough speed to make that overtake possible. But apart from that, you may be able to get turn 2, turn 3, like I've said, but I don't think the second DRS zone, it's tricky unless you do a late, like Daniel Ricciardo style dive into the corner. It's hard to get the overtake done there, but yeah, for me, I'd say turn 1 is probably your best opportunity for overtakes here.
Yeah, absolutely. As the guys start readying up for the session. Thanks for joining us on stream tonight, guys. If you're watching, make sure you send your comments in. We'd love to hear your thoughts as we go out throughout the entire session. So let us know what you think about the qualifying session, who you think is going to take it for the race. And going back over last week, Sab, obviously we were in Bahrain for round 1, and it was Scott that took the race victory after a superb battle with Sam, who came in second. So Sam heads up tier 2 at the moment with 12 points, where Scott heads up tier 1 on 15. Was that the battle of the race, or do you feel like possibly we might see some other drivers enter themselves into a bit of a championship challenge as we head from round 2 onwards?
It was certainly a very good race, a good debut race for Sam, battling at the front. It'd be interesting to see if he can do that again today. Scott at the front, he's been great in pre-season, and he's proved that in the first race by taking the win. It looks like he's going to be the man to beat at the minute. If others can get involved, I'd love to see others get involved. You had Schofield not far behind. He's always a threat. And then you've got Speed Queen and maybe a few others. So if you get a race tonight, which will be bringing those guys even closer, who knows? We could have another fantastic race.
Absolutely, and as we go into qualifying, as you can see, it's a dry session, so that's great news for the drivers. Obviously, we are on dynamic weather, not unlike how we were in pre-season, where the guys were assessing pace on clear. So yeah, it's dynamic, but lovely, clear blue skies in Barcelona for the field today, and you can see 16 drivers in the paddock. So it's going to be a busy grid heading down to turn 1. What would you say? Would you rather be outside of the top 10, possibly looking in and trying to run long, or is it a case of getting to the front on a set of super softs and trying to essentially just drive away from everyone else and hope that everyone else trips over each other?
It's a tough one, isn't it, that? I was doing practice earlier and I was finding the super soft tyres weren't lasting long at all here. So if you are going to get at the front, you've got to make sure that you really do push on ahead and try and build a gap early on, because it's going to be tough, I think, for anybody to do a one stop tonight. It'd be interesting to see if anybody goes for that. Me personally, I would favour the 2 stops. So it's tough for me. My point of view, I would prefer the option of a free choice, so finishing about 11th and trying to attack like that and possibly be faster towards the end of the race. But it'll be interesting to see what these guys' strategies are come the race.
Absolutely, as the cars start rolling out onto track for the qualifying session, the number 99 of X-Mike XSI leads us around in the Ferrari. It's Mike, obviously, in his qualifying sessions tends to go out, set a bank lap, and then possibly go back in and see what the pace is like. But both Mercedes have come out on track as they did last week in Bahrain when they came out in tandem, both setting laps where they really put the brake on as they crossed the start-finish line to benefit themselves later, meaning they could set that bank lap time and then go a little bit quicker on a set of harder tyres. So it was a little bit of team mind games in Bahrain with Mercedes. Obviously, we saw Joel holding up Scopefielder during the race and helping out his Mercedes teammate of Boy Better OSB. So do you expect to see the same thing from the Mercedes team again tonight?
It's going to be interesting, yeah. Joel played an absolutely blinding role for his teammate last week to hold Scopefield for as long as he did. Maybe Scott will do the favour again for him this week. Who knows? There's definitely a good team spirit within the Mercedes camp at the minute, and as we see them both leading each other down the start-finish straight for their opening lap once again in tandem.
Yeah, absolutely. The two Mercedes know each other very well, and you can see we'll be dragging each other around this lap. Very close quarters between the two of them. So the Brackley team on the pit will be pretty mindful that they don't trip up over each other on this qualifying lap. And equally, you want to be following the car in front for the DRS down the main straight, and possibly a little bit into turn 4 and down the second DRS straight out of the exit of turn 9. But you don't want to get caught in that dirty air, because especially in this corner that Mike's just going through there, just out on the exit of turn 7 and turn 8, it can really upset the car, and the cars will be running maximum downforce today, because obviously with the very although there's a predominance of fast corners and the long pit straight, the fastest lap times around here I found are achieved with just getting that right balance out of the slower corners. As you can see, Mike having to drop down a gear there on the exit of turn 12 into turn 13 and 14, down through the chicane, and it is the exit out of turn 15 there into the last corner. Mike's going to be the last one, or first one across the line, sorry, and he's going to set the first provisional time. It's an 18.8.
We've just had both the Merc guys cross the line, and to be fair, Joel was holding up Scott no end, but I don't know whether he must have invalidated his lap time because he crossed the line but didn't set a lap, whereas Joel set a 1:20 on the yellows, which, to be fair, isn't very quick at all because Rick's ahead of him and Humberstone's ahead of him, both on soft tyres with much quicker times at the minute.
Yeah, you can see a different array of strategies on the field at the moment as I'm sitting on board with Speed Queen 80. She had a great race, to be fair, from comparing from her starting position last week. Obviously started well down the field in 13th position, managed to claw her way up, finished just off of the podium in 4th as she comes out after her installation lap on the mediums, just possibly deciding to come back in and set a set of softer tyres on that Ferrari, seeing the guys around her setting quick times on the softer compound tyres. But Speed Queen, always one of those drivers that you have to keep an eye on.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think she'd have more than likely been on the podium or possibly won last week if she'd have qualified better. So a chance missed really for her there because her race pace was absolutely fantastic, and she did just go out on the mediums. I can't see her doing a qualifying lap on the mediums. I think the mediums are just too slow round here, and you could end up losing too much time early on in the race, and you don't really want to be making up time later on in the race and really having to push those tyres and run the wear down. And I'm just at the minute watching Scope. He's on the soft tyres at the minute. He's just headed down the bottom of the second DRS, and so he's entered into third sector now. It'd be interesting to see where he can put his Red Bull on those soft tyres. Can he get up alongside Humberstone or maybe Rick and really put the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of a different strategy compared to those guys who are on the super softs? He's just about to come around the final corner now as he's hitting the DRS, and he jumps up straight into first place. Fantastic lap, a 1:17.9 on the soft tyres.
Yeah, great lap there from Scopefielder. Set himself on provisional pole, jumping ahead of the likes of DeLanger 93, who's done that time on the Super Softs, and Renner 9. So great lap for the Red Bull driver. Of course, last season's Tier 2 champion. On, as you can see, driving around the Swedish driver with the blue and yellow helmet representing his country's colours. So we've got drivers like GP1 Alex. He's gone out on the mediums. He set a time of 1:19.2, so I feel that's probably around the limit of what you'll get from the mediums around here. It's around the low 19s, possibly the high 18s if you really lock in a lap. So as you were saying, probably, although I find there's not too much disparity between the softs and the mediums around here, you definitely want to be starting as far up as possible due to the fact that it is such a notoriously difficult track to overtake on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The mediums, I'd be amazed, to be honest, if unless somebody goes for a one stop. I think people will be favouring the soft and super soft tyres for a two. Oh, and GP1 Alex is kicking the rear end out there on his lap. I think I'd be surprised to see the mediums in the race. Me personally would favour this two stop soft, super soft and soft maybe, or something along those lines. It's not a great tyre around here. Now Alex come into the pits, he's abandoned that lap, so maybe he thinks he's got as much as he can out of those medium tyres.
Yeah, just possibly realising that he is sitting in ninth at the moment with only 10 minutes left in the session. Of course, there's many drivers left to set a competitive time, but if the times were to stop right now, he would be starting on the mediums. So obviously, you don't want to put any more tyre wear into those tyres than necessary, as just sitting on board with Never Miss, the second Sauber, obviously teammates with GP1 Alex. Never Miss coming around the final sector now, round turn 11 into turn 12, and then down into the chicane. Never Miss joining the league last race for the first time up into the no assist. Managed to come away with a debut point in 10th position, so it was a good race for Never Miss. He started off positively and unfortunately dropped back later in the stint due to a late pit stop, but a positive showing for the young driver.
Yeah, definitely. He's a quick guy, and I think once he gets his groove on into this season, and he finds where he's comfortable, I can see him constantly challenging in the top 10, even higher perhaps, because he has got a good race pedigree about him, and I've raced against him a few times last season in Performance 2, and he can put up a good fight when he's behind you. He definitely lets you know you're there. It's not unfair. It's just a good battler. So yeah, I think he'll do really well this season.
Absolutely, and we've now gone on board with Speed Queen 80. She's out on the softs. You can see she's just gone through turn 1 into turn 2 there. It's the long turn 3. You don't have to go flat out. Sometimes you can lift and it can help you ever so slightly. Let the car carrying around down into turn 4, 100 kilometers an hour. She's sitting in 4th gear, up into 5th. Late into 5th, down, drop it down into 3rd gear. Nice and tight on that left hand apex down into turn 5. Now stretch it out through turn 6. This little kink. Now 7, off camber, very tricky. She goes through 6 and 7 into 8. Around turn 9, you have to lift ever so slightly, and she does. Keeps it in 6th gear. Now stretched open, wide open. DRS, there you go. 7th gear, almost up into top gear. Slows it down for the exit of the DRS zone. Almost hairpin turn through turn 10. Now you curve around into turn 11. Another off camber corner. You can find yourself going off wide there. Speed Queen coming around the final sector now, and now it's down into the chicane, obviously installed to slow the cars down. It used to be a very quick end to the lap around here. She gets around the chicane pretty handily there. She's going to exit the final corner. DRS opens now. She's going to cross the line. The Speed Queen only does a 1:23.3, so what looked like was quite a competitive lap was actually well off the pace.
Yeah, that's surprising, that was. Maybe she goes for another lap, or I don't know. It's tough to say. I just want to pick up on Mero. He's just jumped into 3rd place. Well, he was 3rd. Schofield, Humberstone, sorry, is now into 1st place with the super soft tyres. I also wanted to pick out. I think De Lange has had an off somewhere on the track. There was a yellow flag flicked up in sector 2, and suddenly he had retired. So unfortunate for him, he's out of qualifying right now, so he'll not be able to improve on a 1:18.1. Hopefully for his point of view, not many more people will go quicker than him, and he can stay quite high up in that table. But at the minute it's so tight at the top between Humberstone and Rick, at 1:17.349 and a 1:17.397, and with Schofield not far behind on the softs, and SJD has just gone into 3rd with a 1:17.8 on the super soft, so it's very close between the top 4 in a minute.
Yeah, just caught up with Mike there, who had a spin on the exit of turn 4 as he headed towards turn 5 there. So poor into that lap, or to the start to that lap really. It's only really the end of the 1st sector that he was in there on the entry to the 2nd sector. Mike currently sitting in 8th position, but yeah, great lap from Humberstone into the 17.3s, currently sitting 500ths of a second ahead of Rick. Obviously Rick qualifies very well. It was last week, he did very well in qualifying, unfortunately couldn't translate that across the race pace. So the 2 at the top, Humberstone we know is very fast, and equally Rick definitely has that 1 lap pace, but it's really translating this into race pace, especially around here where qualifying can be pretty crucial come race time. So a great lap from SJD, and as you said, yeah, great lap from Mero D2 in the Williams to put himself up into 5th position.
Yeah, GP1 Alex, he's currently out on the super softs. He's also just had a spin in his Sauber, so that's not good for him. It's only lap time at the minute. Still on those medium tyres. He's the only person at the minute still set a time on the medium tyres with a 1:19.2. But it looks like he's really struggling at the minute on those super soft tyres. You won't want to take too much out of those tyres if he wants to go again, because it's really going to hamper him in the race. So maybe he might come back in and swap for another set.
Absolutely. Sammy at the pit-ho's coming out the final corner now. He's setting his first timed lap, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty quick one. Might set him into the top. It does set him into the top 10, so he goes 7th on the soft tyres. So great lap from there. He goes ahead of a lot of drivers out on the super soft tyres at the moment. So Sam in the Williams putting a pretty tasty lap in with only 4 minutes and 50 seconds left in the session, but there's still plenty of drivers to set a competitive time. Look at that, you've still got both Mercedes, Speed Queen, Nikki 9095 down there that still haven't set really competitive times. So I think with 4 minutes 30 seconds left in the session, it's still all to play for.
And as you say that, both Mercedes once again in tandem have both come out. Joel has come out on the looks of it on, I think they've both come out on mediums. Could be wrong, it looks like, yeah, they've both come out on mediums, which suggests to me, are they playing a different strategy for the race? It's an interesting one, this, because they could both end up outside the top 10, which really would not be good for them, especially Scott, who won last week. It's it's not going to do him any favours. It's a bold call. This is we've got a yellow in sector 1 and 2, but that's quickly gone away. We've also got Nicky now out there. He's on the super soft tyres. The scope has just gone fastest with a 171 on the super softs. Mega lap from him there.
Yeah, great lap from Schofield. I'm sitting on board with GP1 Alex. He had a lot of traffic in that second and third sector there. He does manage to get up into fifth position, so great lap from Alex there. He really struggled with the slow Williams, or both of the Williams actually, of Sam and Mero, who seemed to get in his way ever so slightly. So GP1 Alex possibly losing a few tenths out there, but does very well to get himself up into the low 18s as he sits currently on the third row of the grid.
Just had another yellow, but that must have been just a little off or letting somebody through. It's SJD is running slow just to let everybody through, so there's no issues there. I'm just currently watching Nicky. He's on his, I think he's still, no, he's not setting, according to the sector time, he's on 8 minutes, so that can't be right. He must be coming up, starting a flying lap now. Yes, he's just starting to fly that now on the super soft, so can he also put himself well up into contention with this latest run?
Yeah, just sitting on board here with Rick WR88. He's coming around into the third sector now. He's coming onto the entry of turn 11, that off camber right-hander. It seems to go on forever as you climb up the hill. Now down the hill, down into turn 12 and into the chicane. Oh, runs wide at the chicane there, so it's probably not going to help the Canadian at all. It looks like he may have even bailed out. Yeah, he has. So unfortunate for Rick there. He's not going to have time to come in and set another time out there. So unfortunately for Rick, it looks like the Force India is going to have to be happy with what is currently third position, but may be much further down come the end of this qualifying session.
Both Force India's having problems. I was just watching Nicky, and he's ran wide and clipped the wall and took some damage to his front wing, his right front wing. He was on a decent, it looked like a decent lap, and it just clipped the grass and it took him out. It didn't hit the wall hard, but it was just enough just to do damage to that, and he's just spun out again. And yeah, I think that's his session pretty much done there. It's not been a good qualifying for Nicky, unfortunately for him, as I just look up as Speed Queen is now back out on, she's now on the super soft tyres, hoping to be a lot more competitive. Yeah,
the two Mercedes have set their times, and look at that, they've both dropped outside of the top 10. Scott managed to get into 10th position on the mediums. He did an 18.802, but he's been relegated because of Renner and Sam both getting better times. So both Mercedes will be starting outside of the top 10, which, although you get tyre advantage, you can start on fresh tyres of your choice, but it'll be a lot of cars to overtake for these two Mercedes if they're going to get anywhere near the front. But equally, Speed Queen, as you say, she's out there on the super soft tyre. She needs to get this lap absolutely perfect, because otherwise she's going to be back there with the Mercedes, and they're not going to make it easier for her at all.
No, she's got a car ahead of her, hopefully that won't get in her way too much, but if she does set in a good lap here, this will then push the Mercedes boys further down. They're currently 12th and 14th. This is not good for them. I can't see how this strategy is going to work. Hopefully they can prove me wrong when we have a fantastic race and they do some fantastic overtakes, but at the minute it's looking a bit crazy from my point of view. Speed Queen's just coming down the second DRS straight now. She's still got one or two cars ahead of her. She shouldn't bother her that much as she's coming round to hopefully set a more competitive time.
Yeah, coming into the final chicane for Speed Queen on the super soft tyres in the Ferrari tonight. Does she go around the final corner? Does she bail out? No, she is sticking with it. It looks like it might be a much more competitive time for the Ferrari. She's going to definitely jump up into the top 10, and she does. It's a 1:18.116, 2 thousandths of a second behind Mero D2, and she gets jumped by the Sauber of GP1 Alex, who moves up. I believe it was Alex that moved up, or was it Sam? Possibly Sam that moved up with the 17.572 there, but time has now expired. We've got a couple of cars still out on track. Humberstone's coming around the final corner now. Can he improve and get pole position? He does. It's a provisional pole position for the Haas of Humberstone, but Scopefielder is still out there, but Humberstone dipping into the 116, so an absolutely electric lap there for the Haas.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic, weren't it? It's a real battle at the top here now. Have you noticed as well? Nobody has decided to stick with the soft tyres. Everybody is going for, apart from both the Mercedes, everybody's going for the fastest possible tyres. Scope has abandoned it, so he has abandoned that lap. So it looks like Humberstone is your pole man.
Absolutely, yes. Sat on board with Scope, and he came into the entry of turn 11. Unfortunately, just got a little bit of snap oversteer in the Red Bull, and once that happens, you lose all grip. You get a lot of lateral movement in the car, and you just lose a whole bundle of time. So, deciding to bail out of that lap, but he will start on the front row grid alongside Humberstone. Those two split by just over 0.2 of a second, and a very, very interesting end to the qualifying session for the guys tonight as we line up for the race, and we look to see what the weather is. Hopefully these guys will be praying for the blue skies to maintain their appearance above the Barcelona sky. As you see the final results for qualifying, it's Humberstone in the Haas. He sets a 16.929 to qualify on pole position. Schofield is in second, with Rick once again doing well in third. SJD is in fourth. Sam is in fifth alongside GP1 Alex. Merody 2 does well alongside Speed Queen. She got up into 8th position. Delaya is in 9th alongside Renner. Boy Better Know is in 10th alongside Stiffen 1980. Never Miss is in 13th. Mike is in 14th. And then Joel and Nikki will make up your final row of the grid. And as we were saying, it's a disappointing session for the two Mercedes drivers. Or is this a plan? Have they got something in mind they want to try out for the race?
This is good. This is good. I think this is good. Oh, we've got rain, so that gone straight out the window. I was just about to say everybody's on the super softs except them are on the mediums, but that's completely ruined now. So this is going to be even harder for them now, because if it's inters or full on wets, they're going to be on the same tyre, and they're going to have to try and work their way through in really tricky conditions.
Yeah, and that really does make you think about what the Mercedes team were putting into action when it came into the qualifying session, setting both drivers out on the medium tyres. Obviously, these guys would have had heads up that it was going to be a wet race session. So, as you could see, most drivers were out there on the super softs, and that was obviously because they realised that they had to get track position. And so, to go out there on the mediums, it was almost consigning yourself to finishing way down the order. So, a very interesting decision for the two Mercs.
Yeah, that really is. It does explain a lot as well now why, like you say, like everybody was on the super softs, because I thought we would have had a lot more mixture of strategies. But the problem with the Mercedes guys is now, which I personally hate, is when it's wet and you're starting off on the grid. The last place you want to be is right in the middle of the pack, because if you brake too early and someone brakes too late, you can have someone run into the back of you. If you brake too late, you can run in the back of somebody else. There's a lot of spray to contend with. It's really tricky inside that real core midfield pack, and this is going to make it really difficult for them to score very good points this race tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, and as you were saying, with the tricky conditions, and this makes the corners like turn 8, like turn 9, like turn 11 even trickier. Those ones that are slightly off camber, this is where it really shows who are the drivers on the grid, and who needs to work on their skills, because this is where it will really test you with especially running the no assists, of making sure you keep that car planted on the track surface under slippery and greasy conditions. So it's shaping up to be a pretty fantastic start to the race. We'll look to see if all 16 cars can make it through the first lap unscathed. But as we go straight to the lights, we'll see. Are we going formation? We are going formation. It looked like we almost went to straight to green there, but yeah, it's going to be Humberstone that leads the field around. Looks like it is intermediate conditions, no standing water on the track at the moment. We'll just check in with the everyone's tyre choices, and yeah, it is. Everyone's gone for the green-walled intermediate tyres. Obviously a very fluid tyre. They're very good at working in different zones. It's only really when you get standing water that you want to move over to the extreme wets, and equally they tend to work best when you're moving down towards drier conditions. So the sky looking relatively light, so possibly we'll see if the cloud can break and we'll move to dry conditions later in the race. And if that's the case, that's when it becomes exciting, isn't it, Sad? When you're getting that wet to dry race, and it's who makes the brave move first.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because if you go a lap too soon and you think I can brave it, it's like someone like Scott down in 11th thinking I can brave it and try and go on the soft tyres one lap too soon, and you hit a wet patch, you could be out of the race in a click of the fingers. This is really exciting when conditions are like this, and hopefully we do get the weather drying up and really testing these guys and making them think and work out when it is possible to make the switch to possibly make some jumps through the pit stop phase and later on in the race different overtakes on people on the slower tyres.
Absolutely. Humberstone leading the field around, coming into the final few corners now. There in the carbon black helmet, sitting in the Haas cockpit, comes around the final corner, about to line up, and these guys running the no assist. This is going to be a very tricky launch. Obviously, haven't run in wet for a long time. It was only late into last season, so it would have been well over a month or two since we last run in the wet. So we'll look to see who struggles off the line, because wheel spin could be a real factor tonight.
Yeah. This is going to be really interesting because, like I said earlier, you've got a long run down to turn one, so you're going to have to get your braking absolutely spot on here, because if you don't, you could end up with quite a big and nasty accident.
Absolutely, the engine notes are rising. We're getting ready to go here. The Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship. We have 4 lights, 5 lights, and we are finally off and away. And we've got a jump start already for Sam. And I saw another one flash up as well. So a jump start. Oh, we've got a Ferrari off at the back. Is that Mike? It looks like it is, but it's Schofield that's got away the best. He's managed to jump Humberstone down into turn one. Oh, and the Haas goes very deep. Almost collects the rear end of the Red Bull, who's had to take avoiding action, and the two at the front already suffering. And Sam has made his way up into the lead. Unfortunately, that jump start will have aided that, but Schofield up into second position. Humberstone's dropped down to 4th, but it's GP1. Alex has made a great start up into 3rd position. Mero and Renner fighting down over 4th and 5th at the moment. They're side by side down into the entry at turn 5. Still side by side. Oh, the Haas has gone wide, and that's Renault who's going to go deep, and they're going to go 4 wide almost down there. 3 wide into turn 8 possibly. It'll be very brave in these conditions. Oh, and the Haas has been collected there by the Williams. He's going to go wide again, and that's Renault 9. A bit of a scrappy start to the race for these guys.
Yeah, the other guy, you noticed it was SJD who also got the jump start, so he got a jump start and he's dropped significantly all the way down to 12th for a minute, so this is really going to put him out. So Sam, he'll have a drive through to contend with, even though he's at the front of me, so I assume he's just going to try and build up a gap as much as possible so it doesn't hurt him as much. But unlucky for those guys, those red lights were on for quite a while and the anticipation was just building up. Is he going to come in now, or is he going to go back round? I think he's carried on, Sam, so he's not going to do his drive through just yet.
No, you can see the position changes here. You've got, obviously, Sam's made those positions up. SJD is going to take his drive-through penalty now. So, obviously, SJD and Sam both probably setting themselves off. Of course, if one person jumps, you usually find the person either next to you or directly behind you can often struggle with jumping as well. But you've got a Speed Queen. She's moved up 4 positions. She's currently sitting in 4th position at the moment. And then the movers down the field, you've got Stifler. He's made a great start from 12th position up into 6th. Humberstone dropped from pole position all the way down to 7th, so awful start for the Haas there. And boy better know, in the Mercedes, he's got up into the top 10. He's certainly sitting in 8th, and he's left his teammate behind. Joel, although he's made up 3 positions, he's only down in 12th, battling side by side with Nicky. Manages to get the move done, so Joel moving up. He's now got DeLanger in his sights, only a few tenths of a second up the road.
This is interesting. I'll just keep watching at the front. Sam's building up to a 2-second lead now. It's over 2 seconds now. So you could definitely tell he's going to leave it to the very last lap he could possibly stay out for and then do the drive-through to try and limit this damage of the drive-through. But it's going to drop him all the way down, unfortunately for him, despite this great start. We've got GP1 Alex, like you say earlier, he's made a fantastic start. 3 places up. He's right up the minute, just 1.3 seconds, 1.2 seconds behind Scope. Well in contention here for a good podium finish if he carries on like this.
Absolutely, GP1 Alex doing a superb job, but equally he's got Speed Queen 80 behind him, and you've always got to watch out as we've got an absolute fantastic battle going on for 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th at the moment between Joel, Delanger, Nicky and Renner. Of course Renner on a little bit of recovery, but Joel's managed to get the move done on Delanger, but these three have been absolutely at each other for the last lap. Delanger's a good try and go around the outside into turn one. That would be an incredibly brave move, but Mero's gone wide, and that's going to allow Joel to take the outside. Oh, he's going to be in the slippery stuff. Does he keep it in a straight line? It's going to be hard for him to keep it on full throttle around there, but he manages to do it. Superb move around the outside there for Joel V520. He gets it done, but look at the gaggle of cars that we've got here, and following Joel, we've got at least five cars all in earshot of that 9th position. You've got Mero, Delanger, Renner and Nicky all battling over, and they're dragging Never Miss into the party as well. So Never Miss hasn't had the... Oh, we've got the Mero D2. He's just collected into the rear end of the Mercedes, and looks like he hasn't damaged his front wing, but that's not going to help his cause at all. And all that's going to do is allow the guys behind possibly have a little bit of impetus and realising that he might be a little bit nervous on the brakes going into some of these corners.
And this is why I love mixed conditions like this. There's some fantastic battles out there. And I was just looking further ahead. Scott has just overtaken Humberstone for 7th place, so he is getting the job done so far. He has moved up 4 places already in the first 3 laps, as Stifler has made a huge mistake. Scott's surely going to take advantage of this. He's right up the gearbox of that McLaren now, going down to turn 1. Can Scott make the move? He's running side by side with Stifler. Can he take 6th place off him? Stifler is putting up a great defence. Scott goes round the outside. Job done for Scott. It's 5th place now for him.
Superb start for Scott. Boy Benno SB. As Mero D2 had an awful end to that last lap, and he's dropped all the way down to 14th, and he's fallen behind Never Miss now, but the battle continues between the guys ahead. Joel now 0.3 of a second behind Sam ahead the Williams. So the Williams heads up this train of cars, which has started to spread out ever so slightly. We've got a yellow in sector 1 and 2. We'll quickly check who that could be. Can't see anyone at the moment, so it has been cleared. But Scopefielder, he's out in the lead at the moment. Of course, Sam came in and made that drive-through penalty that has allowed Scope back into the lead, and you can see just how much he's having to fight this car and the Red Bull in the drizzly conditions in Barcelona. Probably the least ideal you can want. It's not quite dry, it's not quite wet. You can see the blue sky starting to break through the clouds, so I think these guys will be hoping that this cloud shifts as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's looking really tough down there. I didn't see Sam come in and do his drive through, but to come back out in 8th place, he's kind of limited the damage quite well there early on by pulling out that gap at the front. So can he now knuckle down and fight for those places and get back up amongst the top end points, as Humberstone is really now putting pressure on Stifler in that McLaren for 6th place.
We've got Renner and Delanger going side by side down into turn 1. Delanger snapping that Red Bull in front of him, but Renner, he's not going to give up. You can see drops it down. He's in a high gear at the moment. We've got Mero D2 retires from the session, so unfortunate for Mero. He qualified very well, but just couldn't quite get the grip levels right, and was struggling, was getting past left, right and centre. But unfortunately for Mero D2, his race ends on lap 5 of 33. That leaves SJD, the last person running at the moment, but he's currently only 0.6 of a second behind Never Miss. So a bit of a baptism of fire for these guys that are running no assist for the first time in a while, as Never Miss struggles down in 14th position.
Yeah, it's this really does test your skills in no assist when you've got really tricky conditions like this. I'm watching the battle at the front at the minute, because GP1 Alex has been dipping in and out of the 1 second time with Scopefield. He's putting the pressure on Scope. He's not making it easy for Scope, and at one point he was just under a second for the DRS. He isn't at the minute. He just lost out the final few corners. He's dropped it down to 0.9 now, so he's really making it uncomfortable for Scope at the front at the minute.
Yeah, it's GP1 Alex really impressing on his debut in the No Assist League. He's currently sitting in the second position. He's moved up 4 places since the start. Currently sitting with Sam in 8th position as he looks at the rear end of the McLaren of Stifler 1980. You can see blue sky really starting to break through the cloud now, so this rain possibly won't be with us too much longer, which I'm sure these guys will be highly appreciative of. And one person that's going under the radar is definitely Speed Queen 80. She's sitting in 3rd position at the moment, and equally Scott sitting behind her. So Scott and Speed Queen doing very nicely for themselves, up 5 and up 7 positions respectively. So it's one Mercedes is doing very well. Unfortunately for Joel, he hasn't quite had the start that his teammates had, but this is going to do Scott's championship hopes wonders if he can get a decent result today.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, they've both done it quite under the radar. There's battles everywhere else, and these guys have just knuckled down and got the job done so far. And they're making a good race of it in a minute. Scott's starting to pull away from Rick, so there's no real threat there. He's hoping he can try and reduce the gap to Speed Queen, who once again, she just has one of those weekends, doesn't she, where she doesn't quite nail the qualifying, but come race, she's absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely, and she always does it. She's always consistent, always manages to get the positions done. She's a very, very talented overtaking driver. She's very comfortable with following cars ahead, and she's done it once again, got herself up from 8th into 3rd position. So Speed Queen always one to watch out for. Just saw Sam there in the on the exit of on the entry to turn 10, got down the inside of the McLaren of Stifler 1980, absolutely hammered on the brakes. You could hear the brakes lock up and squeal, but he got the move done, and he's starting to stretch out a little bit of a lead, and Sam possibly looking to save a little bit of lost time due to having to come in for that drive-through penalty.
Sorry, Mike and SAG have just connected and never missed spun it as well. You've got 3 cars down at turn 2 and 3 at the minute. Mike and SJD were side by side going into turn 1, into turn 2, and they just connected, and Mike spun, and luckily it looks like none of them took any damage. It's all a bit slow motion, and it looked a little pathetic at times because it wasn't a high speed accident. It just all came to a really slow stop, but they're all back going again, so nobody's DNF, which is good.
It's good to see that no damage has been picked up. Obviously a very greasy track, and as you can see, the rain has stopped. We're on board with GP1 Alex following Scopefielder. The rain has stopped. Very slick track still out there at the moment, so still tricky conditions for these drivers. Of course, as Scott sets the fastest time of 1:32.244, GP1 Alex locking both front wheels up on the entry to turn 1 there, but still sitting just over a second behind Scopefielder, so doing very nicely. But this is what we were talking about before the race. This is when you really find out who's brave enough to go onto the dry tyres first, because it looks like it won't be too long before that's the case.
Stifler is the first guy to jump. He's just gone onto the soft tyres on his McLaren, so it'll be interesting to watch him now in this opening few laps to see if he can keep that car on the track and see if he can actually make some progress on these intermediate running guys. He's finding it a little bit tricky just coming out, but it's going to. If he can get those tyres warmed up now and really start to push on those soft tyres.
Absolutely. So Stifler will be, as SJD also comes in as well, so we'll see if SJD moves on to a set of dry compound tyres. I imagine he probably will. As you can see, yeah, it's looking much drier. We've got a yellow in sector 1, however.
It was Stifler's just gone off, and he's just spun it as well, so it looks like it's too tricky, and he's just gone into the wall and caused thought he was going to reverse on the track there behind the Sauber, but this is what we were saying, weren't we? He may have been one lap too soon with these soft tyres. He's really struggling around there, Stifler, at the minute. Yeah, the track's still looking very greasy. You can see there's no dry line appearing just yet. We've got a battle on for 6th and 7th. Pole sitter at the moment really struggling. He's got Sam behind him. Sam in 7th position. He's tucked in right behind the Haas as GP1 Alex is the first out of the leaders to come in. He's going to come in and try and get an undercut on Scopefielder. So this is where we'll see if he's able to get the grip out of these tyres compared to what Stifler was a lap before. We've got a yellow in sector 1 once again. Believe may have been Alex. It's GP Alex. He's spun coming out of the. I think he's spun coming out of the pit lane, and he's hit Renner as he's come out. I only flicked across down, and he was sideways coming out of the pit lane. So whether it was too greasy for him, I don't know. But he's picked up a 5-second penalty for severe collision, as Never Misses also picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding the pit lane. So it's a bit frenetic at the minute down turn 1 and around the pit lane.
Yeah, the penalty's starting to rack up. I think the guy's possibly a little bit too brave on the exit of the pit lanes coming out onto the dry compounder tyres. De Lange, he's the first one that you've seen to get through the first sector on the dry compound without getting into too much trouble. But ahead, you've got Scott. He's now 0.6 of a second behind Speed Queen. We've got a yellow in sector 1 once again, as SJD unfortunately retires from the session.
Yeah, Stifler is having a bit of a nightmare. I've just flicked down to him again, and he was sideways going through turn 3, so at the minute it's not working for him. It's Never Misses now. Past him, Never Miss. I'm not sure what tyre he's on at the minute. He's on the soft tyre, so the guy at the back at the minute are really struggling. Now everybody is coming into the pits on inters, so this must be the time.
Speed Queen, Scott, Rick and Sam all coming in nose to tail at the moment. You've got Speed Queen and Scott in the battle, Rick and Sam in a battle with each other. But it's look at the comparisons. We've got a car stopped in the pit lane there, look like SJT, and we've got both the Ferrari of Speed Queen and Scott going on to the medium compound. Speed Queen going deep into turn 1. That's going to allow Scott a much better run out of turn 2 and into turn 3. Can he get it done? But they're having to be incredibly careful on these tyres. You can see both of them, although it's looking much drier. Oh, Scott getting a huge tank slapper on that Mercedes as he exited turn 3. But you can see just how careful they're having to be. Equally, we'll go onto the tyre and just check what everyone's going to. So, yeah, the top... everyone in the top 10 at the moment onto the medium tyres. It's only De Lange, Never Miss and Stifler that have gone onto the soft compound tyres, but Humberstone, Nicky and Renner still out on the intermediate tyres.
Yeah, this is what we love. Oh, as Rick's just had a big tank slapper there. This is what we love, don't we? When it's just not quite dry, and Rick has spun it. Rick has spun it and he has lost it just behind Sam. He was struggling before and he just cannot get those tyres going. He's having to now wait to let GP Alex pass. He's got... Oh, he had Mike behind him. He didn't want to reverse too much and pick up a penalty there. It's not... That's unfortunate for Rick. These tyres have just not worked for him since he's come out.
We've got Stifler. He's just made his stop. He's going to come in and he's set a set of super softs on. So Stifler possibly... realising he's way down the order just to go out and possibly just have a little bit of fun, set some fastest laps. Equally, just saw the others that were in on the intermediates. So Renner's coming in, Humberstone's in, Nicky 9095 still out on the intermediate tyres. So in a track that's looking much drier now, he's out on the tyres that will not be giving you the best grip level. So possibly a little bit over cautious for the Force India.
Yeah, I think it could be, yeah, especially now Mike, the other intermediate runner, he's just come into the pits for assuming a set of dry tyres, as we've got GP1 Alex's. Oh, we've got a yellow flag. What's happened there? We had a yellow flag down at turn 2. I think Renner's just had an incident, but I wasn't quite sure. I didn't quite see that.
Yeah, Joel V520 going very slowly around turn 1 and turn 2 there as well, but it's GP1 Alex, Renner 9 and Joel all in relatively close quarters. You've got Scott sitting just over 0.5 of a second behind Speed Queen, so there are battles going on. You've got Sam also 0.2 of a second behind Humberstone as they exit turn 8. They're heading up the hill into turn 9. Obviously DRS hasn't been enabled just yet. Oh, it has, sorry. The rear flap of the Williams is wide open. He's going to try and go around the outside of the Haas going down into turn 10. And he almost gets it done. It's going to be pretty tight heading up the hill, but yeah, the Williams getting it done. So Sam moving up into 5th position, which is a pretty decent result for him, given the fact that he had a drive-through penalty earlier in the race.
Most definitely. He's recovering well at the minute. He's about 6.5 seconds behind Speed Queen. And Speed Queen is less than a second behind Scottham, and she'll have DRS going down to the turn 1, so she's going to be trying to, as Nicky has come into the pits, he's the final the Inter's running, and Speed Queen is closing in on Scott for second place.
Yeah, Scott and Speed Queen have obviously swapped positions in the last lap and a half that we managed or didn't manage to catch on screen. So Scott moving up into second position as Humberstone picks up a 3-second time penalty. So his race is going from bad to worse, and Renner 9 is now involved in a battle with GP1 Alex, and Alex went deep into turn 1, equally deep into turn 2, and that's going to give Renner a much better run out of 3 into 4, but he doesn't quite get it done yet. But that Haas is starting to look really racy around the back of the Sauber, but equally he's on much softer tyres. Obviously he's on the soft compared to the medium, so really Renner needs to get this move done sooner rather than later, because obviously his tyres will go off much sooner, and it looks like with quite a distance left to go, we're only a third of the way through the race, that he's definitely going to have to come in and make another stop.
Yeah, you actually surprised me when you said that. Third of the way through the race, we seem to have had so much happen in just 12 laps. It's incredible that we're not even halfway through yet. It's been a fantastic race so far. We've had Sam just overtake Nicky for 4th place, so now he is absolutely flying. Sam, he's just 3.5 seconds now behind Speed Queen, so he's definitely making these medium tyres work for him at the minute.
Absolutely, and this is, like we said, this is where the guys can start to really show their pace. Obviously, it kind of neutralises the field in the wet. You find out who's got the best grip in the different conditions. But when the track really starts to dry out, this is when these guys can go flat out, and you can see the DRS now wide open for Renner 9 as he goes down the main straight. Not quite close enough to GP1 Alex on this lap to get the move done, but Alex taking a much deeper run into turn 1 and turn 2 once again. So whether that's his line through that corner, it seems to be very deep, and he's going to go wide into 3, and that should allow the Haas to sweep on the inside, and he does. So Ren and I moving up into 7th position. We've got a yellow in sector 3 currently.
It's Mike. Mike's just spun it. He's just lost it, and it's the second speed he had in sector 3 in the last couple of laps. He's really struggling in those medium tyres, unfortunately, for the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, Mike not enjoying this track whatsoever in the wet, or evidently in the dry. So not the great start, not the best start for him in the championship. Renner 9 does superbly well to hold on to that Haas on the exit of turn 9 there. Looked like he was, almost pointing directly at the wall, but straightens out the car very nicely. So possibly these guys suffering with a little bit of overconfidence in the fact that it is starting to dry up a little bit, but it's what we've got. We've got 0.6 of a second now between Sam and Speed Queen. So Sam really starting as he does a 1:27.0 on the medium compounded tyres that he's done 4 laps on. So Sam on an absolute tear at the moment to catch up to the guys on the podium positions.
You would have, I tell you now, if you was a betting man at the beginning of this race after seeing Sam getting a drive-through penalty, I really wouldn't have said he was been fighting for a podium position after that. He's absolutely flying at the minute on those medium tyres in the Williams car. He's really putting the pressure now on Speed Queen, because Speed Queen has quite the way dropped off of Scott now, 2 seconds. Sam looking like within the next DRS zone or in the next lap or so is going to, where he's flying, cruise past Speed Queen. It's going to be interesting if she can hold him off for as long as possible.
Absolutely, he's right into the gearbox of the Ferrari ahead, and all she will see behind her is that Martini logoed Williams, and it looks like he's going to dive down to the inside, and that's pretty much as easy as you can get. And you don't see that many people, unfortunately, as we lose Stifler 1980 from the session. So he was down in 13th position outside of the points, but you don't often see that many people making such easy moves on Speed Queen as we saw there. But Sam, as you say, absolutely on fire this evening, and he's now 1.2 seconds, but as for Stifler, he lost it on the exit of the final corner. The McLaren was in the middle of the final corner, on the middle of the track in the final corner there, so surprising not to see at least a VSC, if not a safety car. A huge obstacle for the guys. I'm sure that would surprise them ever so slightly to come around the final corner and find them the papaya orange McLaren sitting right in the middle of the track. As what we are getting now, though, with Sam catching up to Scott, is another, or what we can imagine, fantastic battle between the two, like what we saw last week in Bahrain.
Yeah, definitely, and the way Sam's going, I would not rule him out of a win here, even though Scott is 5.5 seconds behind Scott. He's absolutely flying, Sam, and he's probably going to do what he's just done to Speed Queen to Scott in a minute, and I just don't think Scott's going to be able to have an answer to it. Sam's just found another level since he's dropped onto these medium tyres, and the dry setup now for him is just working out perfectly.
Yeah, obviously his setup, as you say, perfectly decent for the changing conditions into the dry. So Sam really benefiting now as we've got into fully dry conditions, and he's made up that 2 seconds on Scott as Scope puts in a 25.9 on the medium. So we'll look to see as we see the times now starting to fall with 24.6, and the Williams is going to go right into the gearbox of the Mercedes and cuts back across him. That is second position for Sam. He does fantastically well to fight back through the field, and there was nothing that Scott could do about that whatsoever. So Sam has now got 5 seconds to catch up to Scopefielder, who I imagine was thinking that he's got a pretty easy run to the least of the next pit stops, but I think he might in the next few laps start to have a Williams all in his mirrors.
Oh, I totally agree. It's just Sam is absolutely cutting through this field like a hot knife through butter, and at the minute he's dropped it from just over 5 seconds to 4.4 seconds. He is cutting into Scopefielder's lead in a minute, and he'll be seeing this Scopefielder and thinking, what can he do? Is he going to now think he's going to have to really push these medium tyres, because it's going to be less than 4 seconds probably by the time Sam crosses the finish the start finish line again. We've got yellow in sector 2 and 3. Yeah,
it's a Sauber. It looks like it might be Never Miss that's gone wide. He's just allowed the lapped cars to go through. It looked like it was Never Miss on the entry to turn 10 there. We've got Joel, who's battling with GP1 Alex at the moment, both on the medium compounded tyres. Obviously Joel not faring as well as his teammate Scott is, and Joel currently sitting in 9th, Scott up in 3rd position. Although Scott now starting to struggle, you can see Speed Queen starting to catch up. She was just over 2 seconds away from the Mercedes, but now he's been passed by Sam. He's now only 1.1 away, so Speed Queen now possibly getting a little bit of a speed up from her pit wall and telling him, you know what, you can pass Mercedes as well. There's still a podium on for you in this race.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to have a good battle here for 3rd place. Speed Queen's smelling blood, so to speak, because she'll be wanting to claim that 3rd place off of Scott. I'm just watching Sam again, so he's absolutely cutting through this lead now. It's coming down to 3 seconds. It was 5.5 seconds just only a lap and a half ago, and he set the fastest lap of the race last lap as well. I think it was a 1:22. He's absolutely flying. I'm just thinking, is he taking too much out of these mediums too early, or is it just he's faster? What would you say at the minute?
Yeah, Sam definitely doing all he can to catch up, and you don't want to take too much out of the tyres too early, because you'll really feel the effects. You can, the mediums, they do last around here, but as soon as they go off the cliff, especially on these fast sweeping corners, you really will feel the effects of it. Equally, I think that's what Joel might be doing at the moment. You can see he's been in this battle with GP1 Alex for a while now, and Joel really struggling in the dirty air of that Sauber. He looks to be much faster, but it's into these corners that he catches up, but he just can't quite get the move on. As you see, Alex takes that unorthodox route, and he's gone deep into turn 1 and 2, and again Joel's going to try and go around the outside as he did a few laps ago. There's a slight bit of contact between the two, but he's going to still try and hang it around the outside between these two. There's still a little bit of wheel banging between the two, but nicely defended for Alex. But this was really so frustrating for Joel, who will know that he's losing time behind the Sauber.
This is a great battle, isn't it? Alex is defending well. Joel's trying to do anything in his power to get past him. Maybe if he can get close enough into the second DRS zone, he can make a dive down the inside, but I don't always. Alex has just dipped a tyre into the gravel there. Fortunately for Alex, Joel wasn't close enough behind to take advantage of that.
Yeah, Joel doing exactly the same. In fact, Joel's done that on the past 3 laps. He's actually run wide into the gravel on the exit of turn 10, so possibly not getting the grip out of these mediums that he was hoping. And obviously you can't take that car you can't take the car flat through turn 9 really, unless you've got the absolute perfect line, and even then it's very easy to upset the car. You're doing an entry speed of around 200 kilometers an hour, so it's really tricky to make sure you're on point. As he's got DRS once again, we know Alex has got this unorthodox route into turn 1 which allows him to go wide, but unfortunately Joel not close enough this lap to get it done. But Alex has gone majorly wide on turn 3. He's lost all grip, and that's going to allow the Mercedes to come up the inside. They're still side by side. Joel shuts the door on the Sauber, does not let him have the opportunity of fighting back, and the Mercedes is finally past the Sauber. And so this is where Joel will need to see if he can stretch away. Obviously he's got a lot of ground to make up. You can see the gap starting to form ahead of him. He's got 6 seconds to catch up with Humberstone, who's now Humberstone in Renner in a battle with Nicky 9095 over 5th position at the moment.
Remember as well, I think if I'm correct, Humberstone does have a 3-second time penalty, so if that is correct, Joel only really needs to make up just over 3 seconds. As Sam is just pumping in fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap. He's just done a 1:21.0. He's now only 1.5 seconds behind Scopefielder. They've both been on the medium tyre for the same amount of laps, 10 laps. He is reeling Scopefielder in well and truly here, and it won't be a matter of time now. Scopefielder will have a Williams all up in his mirrors.
No, absolutely not. We've seen in the past that Scopefielder, when he's on it, he really is on it, and he tends to just drive away from the field. But really, I think that's the case of what Sam would have done today. If he hadn't had that drive-through penalty, I think the Williams would have been absolutely like in a class of his own. And I think we're almost fortunate that he did have to serve that penalty, because it means we've been able to see him have to fight his way back through the field. But Sam really showing the pace here around Barcelona.
Yes, he is, and especially after last week with a great battle, he's looking like a strong early title contender. I don't want to throw my hat in there just yet, but Sam last week was fantastic. Again this week fantastic. He's coming down to 1 point, just under a second on Scopefield. Oh, we've got yellow in sector 2 and 3. I'm not sure what that was for, but Sam's now 0.6 of a second now behind Scopefield.
There was another fastest lap on that last lap for Sam. He did a 20.8 there, so he's dipped into the 20s. He's just getting quicker lap on lap, and he's done 11 laps on these medium tyres, which is a real testament to just how fast he's going. And the 99 Williams making his way around turn 4 there, and he's now got the Red Bull with Scopefielder well and true in his sights, and it looks like this is essentially going to be almost a foregone conclusion, and Scopefield is obviously going to do as much as he can to keep him behind. But it looks like the mood that Sam's in tonight, that he could pretty much do this with his eyes closed, and he would be able to get past the entire field. And he's still half a second behind, but DRS is wide open. That gap's going to come down as he gets into turn 10, locks up ever so slightly, and it's going to compromise him. But he's down to 0.4 of a second behind Scopefield, and now this is where you don't want to get caught in that dirty air. But just watching everyone watching the stream, is Sam going to take it? Is he going to run away with this lead? Can Scopefielder? Let us know what you think. And SJD says, well, that didn't go to plan regarding his race. And yeah, we'd love to know your thoughts, SJD, on how your race started. We saw obviously a few instances throughout the session. How hard was it to drive in the wet conditions? How did you find it? Let us know what you were thinking. Is Sam now 0.2 of a second behind Scope. And Sab, would you like to guess what corner it's going to be that he's going to make his move?
It's interesting, isn't it? I think unless Scope makes a mistake, I think Sam will probably wait until the first DRS zone. He's done quite a few moves down there at the minute. If he can get a good run on Scope into the second DRS zone, which they're about to approach, he's right on that gearbox in a minute. He could do the dive, but he needs to stay really tucked behind that Red Bull, and he looks like he is at the minute. Can he get the move done down this straight here? He's just a little bit too far off. Yeah, I think it'll be the start finish straight. He'll probably end up making a move.
Sun now starting to break through the clouds. You can see a little bit of a glimmer on the track surface. It's much drier than we saw. Sam now really racy behind Scopefielder and life, and like you say, it might be a case that Williams absolutely breezes past the Red Bull. In fact, he gets a bad run out of the chicane at turn 15 and 16. And it means that Scopefielder has a little bit of a breather down this main straight. Sam's not going to be close enough. It'll have to be a real brave move into turn 1 if he was going to get him on. In fact, he's going to have a look at it, and that's going to compromise him. It means he's run deep into turn 1. He locked up the front right, and he's lost a lot of time there. Time now back to 1 second. So Sam possibly a little bit too brave, and equally possibly now starting to feel the effects of this hard pace on those medium tyres.
Yeah, you could be right there. He just wasn't quite right, was he, coming out that final corner, and it didn't allow him to get the move done which he was aiming for. He's staying within a second, so if he can keep within a second and just keep that pressure on Scope, and hopefully for him get that move done. But maybe, like we've said, he may have just started to feel the effects of all these fastest lap after fastest lap. He's pumped his De Lange on the soft tyres, has just pumped in a 1:20.5 fastest lap. That was 2 lap old soft tyres.
Yeah, good lap there from De Lange. Unfortunately sitting down outside of the points at the moment. You can see the gap starting to spread out, the guys down towards the end of the field. Humbostone picks up a 3-second time penalty, so that's really going to relegate him back, especially behind teammate Renault. And equally Joel now going to start to come under threat for the Haas Renault, the Haas of Humbostone, sorry, for 6th position. As you see, Sam still half a second behind. Scott now 2.4 seconds behind the two, so he's starting to catch up to these two battling over the lead. So these two starting to invite a little bit of pressure onto the rear end. So this is where Scope, could this be a tactical decision for Scope? Could it be I'm going to back you into Scott a little bit and then make you look in both, or in your mirrors as well as looking forward as well. So it could be a little bit of a tactical, bit of mind games for Scopefielder.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If he can keep that gap going down the DRS straights and just keep enough of a gap just to keep him in the dirty air, it could drag, as you can see down the view now. Scott is closing in. He's at 1.9 seconds, so he's closing in on Sam. Can this little intermission, let's say, between Scope and Sam bring Scott back into this fight for the lead?
Yeah, absolutely, and we're currently on lap 24 of 33. There's plenty of time left in the race, 4 positions, and Sam has come into the pit. Oh, he's hit the entry into the pit lane there. Very, very lucky to not lose the front left tyre there. Very eagerly made his way into the pit lane. Absolutely clouted the inside or the front left on the wall there. So very lucky to not pick up at least wing damage, but it's a set of soft compound tyres for the Williams, who's stopped in the pit lane. We'll see that bit of pop in there, so possibly a little bit of a lag glitch there, but it's the Williams. He's going to exit the pit lane. He's going to be behind the Haas of Humbostone, so he's lost a few positions there. But Sam now out on fresh tyres, obviously took a lot of life out on those mediums. He managed to do 15 or 14 laps on them, so possibly Scopefielder, this is a lap where he's going to have to come in and cover off this undercut from the Williams.
Yeah, that would probably be the best, because Sam he was flying on the mediums. What do you think he's going to do on these soft tyres? I guarantee you he's probably going to put in a fastest lap in the next lap or two.
Absolutely, we've got a yellow in sector 1's cleared very quickly. Looks like there's no one out on track at the moment. Scopefielder, we'll see, does he come in this lap in the Red Bull? No, he's staying out. So Scopefielder staying out on the mediums. Equally, Scott staying out on the mediums as well. Does Speed Queen come in? No, she stays out as well. So it's a very early jump into the pit lane for Sam, so he has to really make the most of this this first stint. He does not want to get caught behind Humbostone, so he needs to clear the Haas down this main straight using DRS, and then equally he's got to get past Nicky 9095.
Yeah, could Sam have made a mistake here? Because I think the top 3 won't pit in now. There's a 13-second gap from Nicky to Speed Queen, so at the minute, can Sam make up 13 seconds within the next seven laps. So it's a big ask. He's been flying, but it's a big ask to make, and then do the overtake as well.
Yeah, and he's looking really racy behind Humberstone. In fact, he's gone very deep. He's going to try and send it down the inside. Humberstone's going to try and do what he can. In fact, Sam getting almost pushing him out of the way there. Just, you know what, I'm coming through. I'm much faster. I'm on much fresher tyres. Let me through. But he's gone wide. A lot of lateral movement for the Williams there, and that's going to allow Humberstone back up the inside. They almost go side by side into turn 8 and turn 9. But as Mike retires from the session, unfortunately, so Mike, the latest of the retirements, but Sam maintaining position, but lost a lot of ground there, a lot of speed as he got a little bit too hot into turn 7 and drifted the car out onto the gravel. But unfortunately for Humberstone, he wasn't able to capitalise after probably feeling a little bit aggrieved that Sam was a little bit forceful trying to get past.
We have a yellow flag in sector 1. I was just trying to see where it's quickly gone. I think, my personal opinion now, I think the best Sam can get now is 4th, unless the medium tyres suddenly drop off the cliff and he's pulling out crazy lap times. I cannot see how he's... Oh, it's Nicky's. I don't know. I've seen something there. I can't see how he can now, with 6 laps remaining, how he can make an impact on first place as more. Sam does take Nicky, and now he is into 4th place, but 14.5 seconds behind Speed Queen.
Yeah, Sam making an absolutely fantastic move around the outside turn 4 there. Really caught the Force India of Nicky 995 unaware. Not really an overtaking position around the outside there, but Sam doing what he wants tonight. He knows he's got the pace, but he now knows that he's really got to drive pretty much bang on, lap for lap, corner for corner, if he's going to catch up to the front lot. But it's the top 3 currently out on 17 lap old mediums, and these tyres don't last forever, and we've got 5 laps left to go in the race, so they're going to be really just hoping they nurse those tyres around these final 5 laps if they're going to maintain the top 3 positions.
Yeah, we've got Scott, who's 1.2 seconds behind Scope, so he's putting pressure on Scope, but I've just been looking in his battery. He's got no battery left whatsoever to use at the minute. He's in full attack mode to try and gain as much as possible. He had 3% last time I looked. Scope's got more than 70% battery, so if it was the case, if he needs to, he's got plenty to defend there with if Scope gets within a second of him.
Yes, Scott using as much as he can to try and catch up to Scopefielder. Obviously, he took the race win last week in Bahrain. He wants to make it 2 in a row, but Scopefielder equally, he's a multi-time race winner in Invictus. Equally, of course, they've got Speed Queen 80, a multi-time champion, sitting behind them. So we've got a lot of talent in the top 3 at the moment. But one of the young guns, Sam, in 4th position. He's starting to make up time. Obviously, he's taken a second and a half out of them this lap. Obviously, they're on much older tyres, but Sam, he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to catch up by the end of this race. He'd have to take at least 2.5-3 seconds off him per lap, and at the moment, it looks like he's going to run out of time to do so.
Yeah, just had Joel. I was just about to mention Joel's just overtaken Rick on the super soft tyres for 8th place, and then he picks up a 3-second time penalty. I think that was his first time penalty. Sam, as we predicted, with a 1:19 lap time there. So Sam is doing effectively quali lap after quali lap now to the end of the race, hoping to gain on Speed Queen by the end of the race.
Humberstone and Nicky 995 going side by side into turn 1 and turn 2, and Humberstone gets the move done on the Force India. They managed to go side by side, wheel to wheel through the tight apex of turn 2. Nicky unfortunately was on the outside, and it's obviously where the marbles are, where all the runoff and pickup is, so he didn't have the best grip when it comes to that outside line. Humberstone manages to get the move done on an 18 lap old medium tyres. There's a pretty decent move there. Obviously, these tyres will be on the edge of their limited given grip, so it's pretty nicely done for those two to go side by side, and Humberstone moving up into 5th position. But it will be a disappointing race for Humberstone after starting on pole.
Yeah, definitely. He should, with Renner 9 21 seconds behind Nicky, he should have 6th in the bag as long as he doesn't make a mistake with his 6 seconds of time penalties. So yeah, like you say, from first down to sixth, it's not good, but it's still good points. And if you can be consistent in this league, you will finish high up in the championship.
Absolutely, and boy better know now, within DRS range of the Red Bull. Schofield ahead, and Schofield has led the race pretty much from the start, but Scott now really starting to become a threat for the Red Bull. So Scott, he's a tenacious racer, and in fact, if you want to see Scott race on the track for real, he'll be racing his own Ford Fiesta in the British Racing Saloon Car Championship Trophy at Silverstone on the 16th of March. So make sure you check out the InvictusRacingLeague.com for all details on his race there, where you can check out the tickets as well, and on Silverstone's website. So make sure you check out Scott on track in his Fiesta. He uses his track time to get up his confidence, and he's done it pretty well in the early starts of this season. He did very well in pre-season, taking a race victory. He took the race victory in round 1, and he's looking now with just coming up to 3 laps left to go, like he could be on his way. As we'll say, he's going to be DRS is going to be open, but he could be a real threat to Schofielder.
Yes, definitely. This is going to be an interesting last 3 laps, isn't it? We've got a great battle from once again Scott at the top end of the race like last week. Can he grab a second victory in a row and really cement his start to the season? Scope, he's got plenty, like I mentioned earlier, Scope has got plenty of battery to use to help him defend. Scott's going to really put him under pressure here. Can he take advantage now? It looks like maybe Scope's tyres are just starting to go.
Yeah, this is really when the guys are nursing those tyres. They're trying to just be very gentle into these corners. The Scope goes slightly deep into turn 8 there. That's going to give him a slower run up the hill, and it means that Scott, you can see him lift there. The DRS is going to be open down into towards turn 10. Does he make a lunge? No, he decides better against it. But Schofield are locking up now into all of the slow corners, so all it's going to be doing is taking more and more life out of those mediums. And on 21 lap old life of them, it's pretty tricky to keep these things in a straight line. You can see the Red Bull almost skating into the chicane section here to end the final lap. We've got a yellow in sector 2. Looks like Renner 9 might have come into contact with someone. He's dropping way down the order now, so really disappointing for Renner, and this is going to be Scott's best opportunity. He's tucked up right behind Schofield as we go down towards turn 1. He's going to go for the outside for the lead with 2 laps left to go. Oh, there's side by side, and Scott kicking the rear end of the Mercedes out, but he's got the move done on Schofield, who's now relegated down to 2nd position.
Fantastic move by Scott, but I think Scope's tyres are well and truly gone. He just did not have anything else to give in terms of defending there. Scott, if he could just get ahead, he would get the move done, and he clearly has. And now, can he just pull away and claim a 2nd race victory in a row?
Yeah, now with 1.5 laps left to go in round 2 of the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship here in Barcelona. Scott, he's got that lead up to 0.5 of a second. Schofielder, he's going to have 1, possibly 2 more opportunities to get the move done. We've got a yellow in sector 1 once again. We've got Renner coming into the pit lane. Looks like his race is done. Unfortunately, he's dropped outside the points, which has promoted GP1 Alex up into 10th position at the moment. Schofielder, he's still not out of range of the Mercedes ahead. In fact, he's going to be half a second behind as they get to the final straight. We're going to be going down it for one final time into turn 1. Schofielder, he's not quite close enough for the moment, or is he? He's going to be very late on the brakes, but Scope not quite close enough. Scott covering off the line very nicely indeed in the Mercedes, and this is a final lap battle, just like what we saw last week out in Bahrain between Scott, but this time replace Sam with Schofielder. But equally, can Scope be the one to take it off of Scott, or has Scott got the fortitude to keep that Mercedes ahead?
I'd fancy Scott at the minute to just keep that Mercedes ahead. I'm just watching. I'm watching on board with Scope, and he's cranked that battery up now. He's using as much as possible. He's into DRS range. This is where he's going to have to do it if he's going to get the win, and he's just not close enough, unfortunately, for Scope. I think now you can pretty much say, unless Scott makes a mistake, this probably is Scott's victory.
Yeah, Scopefielder so close, but he's going to be absolutely gutted that this race victory is going to elude him. Obviously, a fantastic race for Scott as Nicky picks up a 3-second time penalty, but Scott is going to round the final 2 corners and bar an absolute disaster. Looks like he's going to take the race victory by a few tenths of a second, and Boy Ben OSB crosses the line and does take the race victory. 2 in a row for him. The Mercedes goes and does the double. Scopefielder finishes just over half a second behind. B Queen comes in third. She rounds out the podium, and Sam just behind her, 2.4 seconds down, so he didn't quite have enough. Humberstone is going to come in 5th, which will be disappointing after starting on the podium. Nicky looks like he's going to come home 6th, and he does. Jolfi 520 is in 7th at the moment. He's going to be the next one to cross the line. He's just rounding into the 3rd sector now, coming down into the chicane. In fact, he spun it on the chicane. So Joel, he's dropped down behind Rick, and he's going to drop down behind DeLanger. So Joel losing 2 positions with 3 corners left to go. An absolute disaster for the second Mercedes, and I'm sure he would have thought he was home and dry, and that is worst case scenario for him. And Joel comes across the line, and 7th position has very quickly become 9th.
That's really unlucky, and a gift to the guys who managed to get him at the end there. He's had a tough race tonight, hasn't he, Joel? Yeah, but me personally, driver of the day has to be Scott. 10 places made up. Perfect race for him, from wet to dry. He absolutely drove fantastic tonight.
Yeah, it was a fantastic race for Scott, really imposing himself on the new season. And in fact, he's already installing himself as one of the favourites for the title. Speed Queen, she's managed to get herself onto the podium, but 4th and a 3rd compared to 2 firsts for Scott means that she's got a lot of work to do if she's going to catch up. But equally, you've got that man there, Scopefielder. He's well in the hunt. You can never count out on Scope for getting some good results. And we come to your race classifications for round 2 of the No Assist Championship. Boy better than OSB, that's Scott. He takes the race victory ahead of Scopefielder in 2nd. Speed Queen 80 is in 3rd position with Sam in 4th. Humberstone comes in 5th with Nicky in 6th. Rick comes in 7th. DeLanger is in 8th. GP1 Alex B moved up into 9th position. Jolfi 520 drops down to 10th after penalty, so that promotes Alex up. Renner 9 is in 11th position. He loses out after that late incident. Never Miss, unfortunately, was a lap down. He finishes in 12th, and he was the last of the runners. And then unfortunately we lost Mike Stifler, SJD, and Mero D2. And so a very interesting start to the race week here in Invictus. Sab, obviously differing conditions. We saw a sunny qualifying session and then changeable conditions in the race. So do you foresee equally interesting battles throughout the week, or do you think that is that's going to be the one that people will possibly hope to get the rain out of the way and everyone else wants a little bit of sunshine?
Yeah, probably the second one. And me personally, racing tomorrow night, I definitely don't want those conditions, what those guys have had tonight. It looked very tricky, and yeah, I personally would just prefer dry qualifying, dry race. It makes strategies and stuff like that much easier to predict. As we've seen, Stifler, he gambled on the soft tyres probably a lap too soon, and you've seen what happened to his race. He just tumbled down the field and ended up just having a poor race for his standards.
Absolutely, and it was a tricky race from the start for the guys. We saw a lot of wheel banging in the early few laps when the guys were getting used to that greasy and slippery intermediate track. So it's definitely some data they can take and use when we possibly see another wet race. Possibly not to go too hot into the first lap when obviously those tyres are still quite cold. They're not up to temperature. But it was a good race. Well, I say it was a good race. It was a fantastic race for Scott, as we said. Starting way down the field, he makes up several positions, comes in, takes the race victory. That's his 2nd in a row. And we head off to Japan next week, and I'm sure he'll be looking at making it 3.
Yes, he's definitely the form guy at the minute. We questioned his qualifying, but he proved us all wrong in the race. And if he can get within even in a podium position again, coming the end of the race, he's probably going to be the early favourite for this title at the minute.
Absolutely, but then you can't count out the likes of Scopefielder and of Speed Queen, who finished on a very credible podium position behind them, and equally Sam, he did make that strategy call to come in and try and used the soft compound tyres. I imagine thinking that the others would come in equally, but it's possibly a faux pas from the Williams team ball there that's cost him the race victory.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe if they'd have come in 1 or 2 laps sooner, that strategy might have worked because he was ended up only 2.5 seconds behind Speed Queen. So maybe if he'd have come in a lap or two sooner when he had more laps to pump in these fastest laps, he may have just crept back into that third spot. But it was a bold strategy call from Williams. It nearly worked out to get podium place, but overall I think him and the team threw away a possible win tonight.
Yeah, so possibly a little bit of hindsight for Sam heading into the next race in Japan as we head to Suzuka next week for round 3. But of course, that's not the only race we have this week here in Invictus. Tomorrow night we've got Performance 1 and Performance 2, and then on Wednesday night you've got F1, F2 and F3. So make sure you check out our website invictusracingleague.com, where you can find out all the stream details. Equally on the socials, Invictus Racing Leagues on Facebook and Invictus RL on Twitter and on Instagram. Make sure you follow us and get involved with the community. Sign up and get yourself on the grid. Equally, we're always looking for new members for the community. Thank you very much, Sab, for joining me this evening. It's always great to have you in the box, and good luck and have fun with as you make your trip out to the Australian Grand Prix.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm sure you'll miss me for the next few weeks. Yeah, I cannot wait to go to the Australian Grand Prix. I shall obviously, if you don't follow me on Twitter at Alan Sabatino, I'll be posting photos and videos of my trip over there. Yeah, it should be fantastic seeing the cars for the first time this season going at full speed and really seeing who's made the best car, let's say. And is it going to be Ferrari based on testing? It remains to be seen.
Yeah, all will be revealed in a few weeks' time as they go to Melbourne. I'm sure we're all very jealous and can't wait to see the start of the season. We can't wait to see some photos and some videos whilst you're out there. Make sure you check in on the website for the Invictus Racing League off-track specials, where we'll catch up with Sab as he's out there in Australia. But for tonight, thanks for joining me. It's been great having you in the comments, watching the stream, making sure you're watching the videos. Thanks for making this one of the most watched leagues in Invictus. It's always great to see people getting engaged, and we will see you next week in Japan. Good night.
Good night.